Hey there, my name's Joe Keyport, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. For this week's episode, I talked to Griffin of The Pink Place. Now, if you don't know, The Pink Place is a DIY venue run during the summer months, and it'll be closing shop at the end of August. People who live there are moving out, and they wanted to end on a high note with a residency by none other than local legend Anita Valvita. However, that almost didn't happen. Last month, the venue got a letter from their landlord saying to stop shows or face the consequences. And thankfully, through community action and some luck, the property managers are letting them finish out their season. As a listener of Ear Coffee, you know that DIY venues are incredibly important to the music scene here. They're an alternative to corporate venues and provide a space to learn about music when the only real places to go to see shows are 18-plus bars and First Ave venues as alternatives. Griffin was great to talk to and gave us some insight into the situation with their landlords and, talked to us about how to run a successful venue. It's Griffin. He's talking about The Pink Place, and it's right here on the Ear Coffee Podcast. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing today?
Doing good. I'm excited to chat with you. I'm excited that you guys can continue after we'll talk about it a little bit about your guys' recent dealings and kind of the world of working as a DIY venue. So I'm happy to chat with you here this evening.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy for you pointing a little spotlight on us. This is very exciting.
So Griffin, before we get into, talking about The Pink Place, not The Pink Palace, even though it's an easy one. I even just like getting ready, I keep slipping up here. I want to ask about kind of your history here in kind of the DIY music scene. Kind of when did you get into it? Because you play in Killed by Kiwis, right?
Yes, I do. As well as a lot of people who live in this house here.
Yeah. So talk to me about kind of how you started getting into music and how you got into playing music here in Minneapolis.
Yeah, so Killed by Kiwis is a band, a bunch of high school friends. We all met in the back of house of a restaurant that we all worked when we were younger. And we started a band, and it's been the greatest thing in our lives until we made a DIY space. Then, in all honesty, that's every once in a while when we look out, even though we've been on the stage side of performing, when we look out at people in our backyard, the statement that has been said is, this is the coolest thing that we do. It's very cool to be doing this, having a DIY space that we created. And in all honesty, the reason why we created it is because when we moved into our current residence, we looked at the backyard and saw that there was a deck. We're like, we could play here. That was kind of the logic that originally started it, is like, we're in a band. Mm-hmm. Wow, we have the space to do this. And luckily, our drummer, Quinn Siebers, has throughout his entire life been acquiring studio equipment and a lot of sound equipment. So we pretty much had a lot of the sound equipment needed to actually put on a show. Yeah. So when you kind of got, two ingredients, and the two most important ingredients of a place to do it and the equipment to do it, that's kind of what got us into it.
Yeah. So when did you first start throwing shows at Pink Place? Kind of when did the venue kind of take shape?
So we moved into the house in 2022. So that would have been in a fall lease. So we started in the summer of 2023. So we're in 2025 now. So this is our third and final year, because we're moving out after this.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And being outside, you guys are a seasonal thing, right? You kind of throughout the summer you'll throw shows, but you're not doing year round.
Yeah, we don't do year round because we're very at the mercy of the elements, and it's very nice to be outside. I think a lot of people really enjoy having music be outside and having, the natural air out there. There's a couple benefits to it. Like, I personally think having open air with sound is really nice because it doesn't bounce off all the walls, and I think you can really just get a great experience for the guest if the weather is good. So when we do our first and last shows of the season is always a little bit dicey in terms of weather. So we did buy, I think in our first or second year for the Halloween show, which was our like closer, because that's very exciting for DIY venues to have a Halloween show, and we really want to be a part of that. But it starts to get cold in the Midwest during Halloween, so we got one of those like patio like heat lamp things. So we have like a heat lamp going. And I remember Killback Kiwis actually played that first year, and I remember I specifically chose a costume where I could wear like fingerless gloves because I was like, it's gonna be fucking cold. And we have to play music too. So yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs to being outside, and one of the other downs is constantly being afraid of heavy rain, because if it rains hard enough, there's little you can do.
Yeah, no, totally. And the one time I played at Pink Place, I just always noted like how much attention to detail y'all like put into it. Like you talked about the sound equipment, but like it comes down to like you have a big tent bands can play under. So even I remember I think today our day last year when I played, it was hot as hell, but we had a tent that we could sit under. You guys had fans going. You were handing out water, which is like a crazy thing that I don't always see. I go to a other DIY spaces because it's always been kind of a free for all.
Yeah, we try to be just incredibly safe and as much like paying attention to the needs of performers and guests as we can. So like I remember one of the questions you asked was like previous DIY history, and me myself, like before we started Pink Place, I had performed and played a couple house shows, but I do know some of my I'll reference my partner here, but my partner Ellis has been going to shows since they were very young. In their own words, maybe a little bit too young to be in spaces like that. And there's a capacity for the kind of free for all to be. It has the capacity to be a dangerous space. It's underground. It's not regulated, and there's a lot of cool things about that, and a lot of desirable things with like local music, especially like punk music and a sense of community. But there is a capacity for it to also not be ran well enough to be a safe space. And when we started doing our place, we wanted it to be a place where people can feel safe. And that is one of the greatest compliments we've gotten from people, including one of my friends said he's in his 30s, and he's like, I've been going to DIY shows since I was a kid. In a good way, this is the most organized and safe DIY venue that I feel safe being here. And that's one of the compliments that we shoot for receiving every time we do things.
Yeah. Well, it just like you said, it's like there's something cool about that free for all and the ability to operate outside of kind of the norms that you'd expect if you went to an established venue. But you guys also care about the fact that I've been in places where I'm like they have a bar. I'm not saying Pink Place has this. I've been in basement venues where they like had a bar set up, and I was like, they're serving people who shouldn't be drinking.
Yeah.
And you guys are the handful of times I've been there, it's always felt like it's just like a cool backyard hangout.
Yeah, and that's sorry, did I cut you off?
No, you're good. I
was gonna say that's exactly what we're going for, because I have also been to spaces, and this isn't necessarily like fully discount that either, because like I fucking understand. I'll say it. Most people at some point have drank underage, and I can't look down from a glass house on stuff like that. But yeah, like when we are able to control what's happening in our backyard, this is how we chose to do it, and we chose it for a very specific reason. And it's to be safer and comfortable, and in a way still getting that alternative from a like full-on venue. We do hope to like make a real venue at some point that would be a real space, like one that if it rains will still be okay. And a place that like becomes our livelihood and our like full career passion, rather than a constant unpaid job that is entirely passion based. But we're very passionate about it right now, and this is the most exciting thing that we do.
I wanted to ask, how do you all, with the shows, because you have a very limited number of weeks during the summer for throwing shows. You're not. What's it like to curate those events? Are you, thinking about sounds and how to go, or how do you go about booking for Pink Place when you were putting shows together for it?
Yeah, so I do most of I do the booking here,
Mhm.
and usually, so in our first year, it was very much Kill by Kiwis is the house band of Pink Place,
Yeah.
and we want people to do shows here, and we also want to perform and be a part of it. Pink Place kind of grew beyond that, and we now Kill by Kiwis just plays like the closer of the
Mhm.
year because we really want to have it be like more bands, more people on the bill than just us. It's fun. It's fun to play our backyard, but in all honesty, it's even more fun to watch people enjoy it. From the sound booth or from another perched up spot. And in terms of booking, like this year, for example, there's like there's some people that we've always kind of wanted to play that I'll always try as much as I can to get them in our backyard, find dates that work. And some of them slip through the cracks. We weren't able to get everyone that we were super aiming to get.
Yeah.
But we always try to get like new people. Like there's always some that we want to come back to, and I'll talk about Anita Velveeta in a
Mhm.
second. But there's always some that we like sometimes want to come back to. But a lot of times I want to like, all right, let's get new people in the backyard. Let's build some new relationships. And usually I try to aim a show for like a relative theme that matches of like artists being of a similar genre, or like I really want this headliner. So I'm either going to contact the headliner and allow them to just make the show however they like, or if I get them on the show, then who would be good to go along with them, given that they're now a part of this date.
Yeah.
But we don't do a ton of shows. So like I do apologize for all the bands that have contacted us and we weren't able to fit. We only do like one or two a month, and we have a short season. We have to do a lot of labor to get all this set up. We have to bring everything outside and take it down every single time we do it. So it's a labor of love. Um, but that is why we only have so many shows.
Yeah.
We would love to do more. But it's an all day effort when we do it. We usually start setting up at like 12 o'clock, 1 p.m. And then there's all the setup and the sound check. And then we're usually done cleaning up by like 11:30, I would say.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. But yeah, booking is usually let's get some cool people in the backyard, especially
Mhm.
if it's ones we haven't we haven't gotten that we've been hoping to get.
Yeah. So does the tent come up and down too?
So this year we did. So in the past, we've left the tent up,
Yeah.
and I have discovered that as much as it stops rain from falling on the deck and into the stage area, it does still kind of pool up, and then creatures like to spawn in there if you don't clean it out. So we've had
Yeah.
some really yucky smells and some really muddy tents at some point. So for this year, what we have done is we leave the skeleton up, but we
Yeah.
take down the tarp. So we put
Okay.
up the tarp every time and secure it for the shade and like attaching things to. But yeah, that we've a lot of Pink Places learning from at some point learning that it didn't work the first time.
Yeah. Talk to me about kind of that trial and error over the last 3-ish years.
Yeah, I think one thing that comes to mind is like so for this year we tried to be like much more organized. Like I'll do like a meeting with the people who are working slash volunteering
Mhm.
to do door that night, and we'll go over things that are like applicable for the night. Um, and we've adjusted with stuff that we either did or like did do in the past that didn't work, or stuff that we think would be a good idea with new information. So one that comes to mind is like capacity.
Mhm.
So at our Halloween show last year, um, we for the first time got to a point where I was like, there might actually be too many people in this backyard at one time. We had not gotten that popular in the past to where I felt that, but at this point we were kind of really a lot of people came in early and a lot of people came, and we kind of had to figure out how to do capacity. And I'll be honest, the first year that happened, it was a bit of a mess because a lot of people are there to see their friends, and it was hard to figure out when you can visually see that you could let in a few more people, but you can't really let in everyone, how do we go about this? So for this year, we have incredibly organized it. We have a counter that we do for the amount of people going in, and we also have basically a kind of a line in the sand of like when people start standing at this point, that's when we should call capacity. But then in terms of allowing people in, we communicate with the bands and basically get a guest list. So theoretically, we should call the capacity a little bit before that actual capacity happens. And then if there's people on the guest list that are like officially, they're like a friend of the band, they really want to see the show, then they would still get in after that point. But we kind of had to organize that because it was a little bit of a mess that first time because we just didn't know that we were that popular, that many people wanted to come. It just hadn't happened before. Because backyard is pretty big, but it's not, it's not infinite.
Yeah.
So we've learned.
Yeah. Have you this year then kind of felt like you've been hitting capacity more and more with that popularity?
We actually haven't had to call capacity at all this year. What is convenient and a little bit surprising for like we have to end by 10 because of residential noise permits and like just restrictions. So we end by 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Which means that our shows end a little bit before a lot of like Saturday shows normally would. A lot of shows will normally go to like 11:30.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, there's a flow to how people come into these shows. And a lot of times, even if the headliner is like a big artist with a lot of fans, at that point in the night, the only people left are people that are there specifically who want to see them as a part of what they wanted to do with their night. Whereas anyone who was more there for another band and doesn't really feel like staying generally chooses to leave. So even if the headliner is pretty big, a lot of times they will have less people than the third band on the bill, third out of four. So we actually, I guess that's a long way of saying we actually haven't reached capacity this year, even though we've had great turnouts for each show. It's always kind of flowed in and out in a way where it's never gotten to be too much. It's always been good. It's always been great turnout and a beautiful amount of people, but it's never been to a point where we've had to call it. But we are perceiving the possibility of it with these Anita residency shows because Anita Velveeta is very popular and it's an album release residency, so it's a bigger deal than just a standard show. And there's a lot of other cool bands on the bill, and frequently more than four for a lot of them. So we perceive the possibility of that happening for these last shows. But honestly, we haven't had to turn people away this year.
Well, that's awesome. And I wanted to ask about a previous statement you made, which is, you can't get to everybody, and you've always had those. What to you locally were bucket list bands that you've always wanted to book, but just couldn't, make happen based on, you have a limited number of dates. You obviously want to keep lineups fresh. Who was an artist or a couple artists that you were just like, I really wanted to get these people. We just couldn't, make it work.
I think I have two that come to mind immediately for like, because a lot of times when I'm booking stuff, I'll be like, all right, can we get like a big time headliner and base a show around them? Because it is very exciting to get bands that like not only like we're like fans of, but like a lot of people know them. Like all our roommates know who I'm talking about when I say their name. The biggest one that comes to mind, the two biggest that come to mind are Keep for Cheap, because I was trying to base a show around them and they were responding to me. I was communicating with them. Their new album is spectacular. You should listen to it. So I was really hoping to do it. And the dates just didn't line up. They were interested in playing, but they were going on tour around the time that basically the only time we could make it fit in our extra short season this year, because we're moving out. So we won't get to go into the fall at all. It's just summer. So Keep for Sheep was not able to get them. A couple this year that we did able to get for the Anita residency is Grandma. That was a band I was hoping to get for a long time and we finally got. But Jalvin, they were a band that I think had to drop out from a show last year. That the moment I looked into their music, I was like, oh, I really want them to play here. And Kill Us Online has been another dragon that we've been chasing and trying to figure out a date where we can get it to work. And we did get them on our finale show, which is very exciting for us. Another one that we didn't get for more local shout outs, partially because I think I just perceived them to be too far out of our league. But honestly, they probably would have done it if I had communicated ahead of time and it worked with their schedule, is Gully Boys. great, amazing local band. One of the
Yeah.
ones that's starting to like successfully spread outside of being a local band and
Mhm.
just being, successful. But I think I just didn't think we could get them, and I didn't hit them up until like too late for this year. And if I would have communicated ahead of time and given them enough dates, I feel like they might have been able to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like the Anita residencies are stacked, you know.
Yeah. There's some crazy bands in there. And that's in combination with like Anita scheduling like bands that she wants, us scheduling bands that we want. And then for Pink Aid, the benefit show, that's also bands that Twin Cities Transmutual Aid booked, and some of which some members are a part of as well.
Mhm. Awesome. It you, Pink Aid, is that one of the final shows, or did that already happen?
So that one is a yes and no. It's Pink Aid 3, which
Okay.
is the final at this location of our benefit shows for Twin Cities Transmutual Aid. We did one our first year, and I've done one every year since. And I like just wouldn't be a Pink Play season without a Pink Aid show. So I'm glad that we have another one set up for this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is that one of the final three then?
Yeah, so that's the middle one. So that's July 26th.
Okay.
Um, that's the one that's like a little bit longer, so it starts earlier. We got a lot of bands on the bill, and all the donations go directly to Twin Cities Transmutual Aid.
Awesome. Well, cool. I wanted to then kind of shift focus here then with the situation you had with your landlord and
Yeah,
the fact that these last three shows almost didn't happen. And
yeah,
so talk to me kind of what you can with that situation.
yeah. So what happened is our landlords at Millennium Management sent us a cease and desist over
Mhm.
email, saying that if we were to continue doing these shows, we would possibly be fined, and even mentioned police presence and eviction as a possible response if we were to continue. What happened with that is they received one report of, I believe, a noise complaint.
Okay.
Um, and then they got that noise complaint goes to the police or the city, and then they got that information sent over to them because I think the address was, it's under their ownership. What is confusing for us is that we get a sound permit each time, which means like we notify the city and the police actually that we do these events at this time. That's part of the noise permit. Is not only does it like notify the police that you have a thing happening at this location at this time, but we also notify our neighbors as a part of the sound permit. We tell them, how long it's going to be noisy from, and the cutoff is 10 o'clock, and we always end at 10 o'clock. And we've never actually interacted with someone who was giving a noise complaint or police. Like we were a little bit surprised when we got this cease and desist, because I kind of expected there to be like police showing up at our show like late, or even
Mhm.
just during our permit time, and just mad that it's happening at all. But that's never happened. So we've kind of never. Our first warning was a document saying, if you keep doing this, we might kick you out of your home. That was our first warning that we interacted with. Because I had so much prepared things that I would have said to someone to appear to us, but it's just there's never been an in-person um, complaint from police or um, nearby residents. I assume
Mhm.
one person is probably just not as happy about what we do here, and obviously it's within their right to not enjoy it. I guess our defense is pretty pleased. We do everything we can to make this like as okay as we can. This
Yeah.
is this is the thing we're most passionate about. But then we had this whole petition because the reason why the cease and desist came in from the management is because that there is a party addendum of the lease that basically says no parties, no no keggers, and no like unlawful gatherings of large amounts of people. And I think they just have a different, or they had a different perspective on what these events were. I think
Yeah.
they saw a possible damage to their property and a possible like massive illegal gathering in their perception, and that's just not what we do. We're incredibly careful about what we do, and it's music. It's live music. That's what it actually is. It's not, fucking Brad doing a, like, I don't know what's called when you jump off a roof and like break a table. Like it's not stuff like that. We're not doing crazy dangerous shit.
Mm-hmm.
We're just trying to do music for the community because we love it. And I think the petition either helped them understand that, or motivated a reasonable amount of discontent with overall Millennium's dealings. And I think they might have felt the effects of that discontent, and decided that they'd be open to changing their mind if we, stay tight.
Yeah.
And if we like stay safe.
It's interesting that the complaint, because like you'd expect with a noise permit, you at least have some level of protection because you pulled that.
Exactly. Yeah. I pay for these, or like we pay for these permits like every time. And I've never had to actually show them to someone who is supposed to be looking at it because they're mad about it. It's always like, we're very prepared here to like have this conversation and like figure out like if it's a neighbor who's mad, like, okay, is there something we can do to like, should we just generally bring the music down? Like, is like, yeah, exactly. We get a permit. We're doing the best we can. It seems like that should cover us, and we should be able to communicate that to someone if they were to have a complaint about it.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And it comes, some of that stuff comes down to like if a neighbor is frustrated, walk down the block and see if they'll at least talk to you. Like,
exactly. Like we all of our direct neighbors, we have all communicated this with. Obviously, we put the noise slips in like doors and like tell everyone that the show happens as a part of it. But also like we've talked in person with a lot of our local neighbors, and we do have a decent setup because we're on very good terms with one of our neighbors. The next one down is like college kids who like our shows, and obviously they're college kids. They don't they're generally not too mad about it. And then like because Como's a unique neighborhood where you have a lot of college kids, you have a lot of people who sometimes have like family homes that they've lived in for a long time, where it's been inherited down because of the expansion of students further away from campus. Housing has been needed more as like the population of the campus grows. But you get this interesting neighborhood where you have like college kids and not college kids at all. But we've communicated with all of our direct neighbors that are like right next to us in person, and they're all very calm and okay with it, and generally have a positive view of what we do. Look at these kids. Look at them having fun.
Yeah.
But it still ends by 10, so like it doesn't hinder my sleep.
Exactly. And I wanted to ask, you kind of talked about the petition. Did you guys start it or did someone else?
I don't know. I can't remember exactly which of us in our Itsy Bitsy collective had the idea of a petition, but that was us who started it. The goal of the petition was kind of because like one of the mentions in that cease and desist is like a local disturbance of like the community or the neighborhood, and the petition was kind of a last ditch effort to say that that's not like what we do here, and that the community is more in support of it than they think. They have their perception looking at what's happening in our community without actually being in it. They don't live right next to us. Millennium Management doesn't live right next to us. It's people that are here and people that come to these shows and enjoy it. So we just kind of wanted to do our best to make that point that we're not a disturbance, but a very important part of this neighborhood and this community.
And how did it feel to see the signatures, come in? I haven't checked the final count, but it's well over 1,000 people, joined in to sign in support of Pink Place continuing for these last 3 shows.
I cried. It was really sweet. I cried when it finally hit me that like we weren't going to have these shows. And I cried again when I saw not just the amount of people signing it, but like exactly what they said and like how they support it. Because that's another thing, is we encourage people to leave comments on it, because I was expecting the necessity of emailing our landlord and using it as kind of like evidence in a way of like what the community is saying. So we did encourage people to say things, and that means people said a lot of said a lot of sweet things. Similar to what I said earlier about like it being a safe space and being very organized and like a vital part of the community. And that's just, I don't know, it's very kind. It feels like, have you ever seen It's a Wonderful Life?
I don't. Maybe.
It's like an old ass Christmas
Yeah, the
movie.
black and white movie.
Black and white, yeah.
where he goes through like living with if he didn't exist. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's really long.
Yeah.
But the whole movie centers around the concept of like, here's him starting out his life, going through life, being a very altruistic person. And at a certain point in like 1 week, horrible things happen to him. And he attempts to take his own life. And he learns what it's like if he wasn't a part of it. And a lot of the town struggled because he did a lot of things, especially with housing and fighting Mr. Potter, the fucking like millionaire landlord, this person who's trying to buy up everything. He sees what it changes. And there's a part at the end too where like he does come back. He realizes like, okay, everything sucks right now, but there is value to my existence. And there's a part where because everything goes bad. So he's back in reality and he's you know, he's happy that it would be bad without him and that he's valuable, but all the problems are still there. He's prepared to handle the problems, but the problems are still there. And the movie ends with, and a lot of his problems are money. And the community just comes out and basically just donates what they can to him and helps him like pay off the massive debt that suddenly gets put upon him. And like everyone in the community, everyone who's ever helped, everyone who's ever interacted with comes in and like they just give what they can. And that's what it felt like when people were giving comments. That's my long read around story, is to say that that's what it felt like. It felt like we have been trying to be very kind to everyone in this community, and seeing all the comments come in to say how like they've experienced that kindness and were willing to voice it back to us felt like that moment in that movie.
Well, awesome. Well, that's good to hear. It's one of the things I do love about being a part of the local scene here is when push comes to shove, people will show out, and it never feels like you're maybe a lone floating island.
Yeah, there's a lot of community here, and there's just so much. There's so much music. There's so many people in bands. There's so many legitimate venues, but there's so many DIY venues around too. In this area, there's so much thriving, and there's so much of a capacity to meet and make legitimate relationships and connections with people. And you really feel it when you're in a space ran by someone that you've done a show with before, you know, like it's like, oh, that's that person, like that's that person. Look, oh, it's the person from this. And it's very nice to see people show that support.
I know we've kind of talked about the remaining 3 shows. Is there anything additional with the Anita residency that you kind of wanted to talk about, in the sense of it being kind of the final 3 shows for Pink Place?
Yeah. So, gosh, what to even say? It'll be very bittersweet. These are incredibly exciting shows. Anita Velveeta has got to be our favorite local artist. We've had her every year that we've had her. She was actually she closed out our first Halloween show, so like the end of our first season. She was the last performer, and even when we booked her, we were like, damn, like this is big stuff, getting Anita Velveeta in our backyard. Like this at that point, that was the like biggest artist by clout and like band that a lot of people know, like in our backyard. So having her tell us the next year, like, oh, I want to do an album residency, like a DIY residency, because that's something that I think would be cool. I now want to have it here. That was really cool, and we made sure any way that we can that we're going to make this happen because that's a great way to go out. I like the idea of ending our place while starting something new for Anita, because we talked about it. We were like, should we try to switch the dates in a way and see if Anita's flexible enough where it doesn't line up with like our last show being her residency? But honestly, like, one, it is just more fun to look out at the crowd during our like shows and see that happen than to perform. Even though we are going to be playing in the last show, we're not headlining very specifically because Anita deserves it a lot more. And I think we'd like to watch the people mosh to her set more than we'd like to close out at our house. And gosh, yeah. Well, we'll be closing out, and I'll maybe try to give like some sort of sad speech. Um, she'll have a new album out that she wanted to host at our place, and it's gonna be fucking awesome. So I like the idea. I like the idea of ending us, but starting a new chapter for her.
Yeah. What do you think about when you look back over the last 3 years, closing this chapter of your own life plus the life of this venue?
Um, I feel like I feel like we've been very inspired like this. I don't know. At least me personally, I went to school for psychology. I think psychology is super interesting, and my day job is like working at a school where I use some of my psychological skills. But overall, at the end of the day, when I move between careers or move between jobs, it's something that I do for money, and that I enjoy part of it, but it's not inherently like my absolute passion in life. This is for a lot of us, this is our absolute passion in life. This is the coolest shit that we do, and this is something that we would like to do beyond this. This is, the end of Pink Place, the end of a DIY space. We're getting a little bit older. We're like 24, 25, getting a little old for Como, and we're gonna move on to a house that's less decrepit and has more functioning utilities. But we're also hoping to move into our own as like making a real space eventually. Like, I think we found what we want to do, and we would love to turn it into a career that we do. We'd love to have our own place that does not need to get sound permits every time, because we're actually in a we're actually in a location where it's just allowed for us to be loud until a certain hour of the night.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to. You're actually permitted for people to be there, and not just, like you said, whatever till 10 o'clock.
Exactly. Yeah, we'd love to be real. Get a beer and liquor license. Get all the licensing involved that's required to be a real place. Not have to worry about the rain. But it's this special thing that we've created is always going to be something special that we created, and we might name the venue Pink Place. We're probably going to hold on to a lot of memorabilia, and care about it maybe more than some other people will if we hang it up in the real venue. Have the Pink Place flag up, and some people know the original space, some people don't. But yeah, closing this chapter is hopefully not a complete goodbye.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, do you have a memory that sticks out to you from your tenure? I assume there's a million you could pick from. When you think about shows that you've thrown or events you've had there, is there like a moment that really just kind of sticks out to you that you just go, damn, like I did this? This really kind of holds with you.
I think it's less of a specific moment, like for a specific show, but more like at this point almost choreographed moment of every show. But when the headliner goes on, I usually go join, like after a little bit, I go join the sound booth, who has like obviously good view of the stage and the crowd. And I'm not like trying not to run around and do anything. I just kind of like stand there for a little bit with the sound crew, because at that moment is usually when I finally feel the feeling of like, we did it. This show was done successfully. Everybody's safe. The timing worked out. We're going to end at a reasonable time because their set is scheduled for 30 minutes, and currently it is 9:10 p.m. So like they're going to end at the proper time, and we get to look out. At least I get to look out with not the anxiety of the day, but more of the like satisfactory of the night as I look out at people, enjoying the show. Mm-hmm. So not a specific moment, but more one that happens every show. At that moment in the night is when I kind of fully breathe easy and fully enjoy it.
I have this on my list of questions, which is, if someone were to come to you and go, what would be a good piece of advice for starting your own DIY venue? What's like the thing that you would tell them? Someone who's done it for 3 years now, kind of run a space like Pink Place, what's that piece of advice you feel like people who are trying to do what you all did, what would be that?
It is sweet. A couple people have actually hit us up about this. There's
Nice.
a couple of places that popped up, or places that are planning on popping up in some amount of time, either around here or even someone who is in town and is planning on starting one in their college town, who has contacted us. But I think the biggest advice I would have, if you want to do it the way that we have done it, uh, over plan and over prepare. So think about each thing that's going to happen as someone enters, because the best answer to a question and the best way to help someone is to not have them even have to ask. So like a bunch of signs, explain where things are. If there's something dangerous, don't make it available to fall on. If there's like a loose nail somewhere, get rid of it or cover it up in a way where it's not going to be a hazard to someone. Um, if the bathroom is somewhere, put signs up to say where the bathroom is. If the bands are on a schedule, tell them the schedule. Tell them exactly how long it's supposed to be, when they're supposed to start, and how long their set's supposed to be. And if they're maybe just not noticing what time it is, remind them, be like, hey, it's time to go on stage. We got to make sure that we end by this time. So then everybody is allowed to get their set time. Just over prepare, over analyze, and think about just each step of the process and how much you can do before it even happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then finally here, before we wrap up, usually we like to ask, local shout outs on the podcast. And normally it's a band, it's in the context of a band being like, I played with, and you played in a band, but kind of who are your, local favorites here? It could be regional favorites too. Who are some people that people really should be listening to and know about?
Yeah, I think I'll first start with like the places that we've done benefit shows for that I think people should get involved with or donate to. Twin Cities Trans Mutual Aid does great work. Grassroots organization redistributing funds to trans people in need in the Twin Cities. AYU build yurts.
We love the Autonomous Yurt Union here at Ear Coffee.
They're great. They do amazing work. We've done a benefit show for them before, and we think that people should support them. They do great stuff. In terms of bands, I've talked about Anita Velveeta, but I'm going to say her again because she is like the greatest. Even some of my people, like my coworkers at like First Half, like they point out to them like that's one of the best local acts in the Twin Cities. Amazing live. If you haven't seen Anita Velveeta live, her music on Spotify is amazing. You should listen to it. But if you have not seen one of her live shows, then you do need to observe that. Another band that I'd have to shout out that has played the Backyard a couple times and been also a great help. Blue Driver, super great people. Check out their stuff. They just had a new, I think their first like studio recorded album.
Yeah.
So I recommend Blue Driver. A couple other bands that have played the Backyard multiple times because they're cool and we liked them. Dalmatian Club, Mystery Meat, Soulflower. Is that your favorite for who played this year? Yeah. Soulflower was really good. Soulflower was a great show. That was our first show of this season, and they were amazing. They're chill stuff, and their chill stuff is great, but they brought a lot of energy too. They were amazing. Yeah, there's a couple for you.
Yeah. And we could be here all night just naming guys, just naming bands.
Just naming bands. I could do my best to name every single band from the beginning of our thing, and I would probably be close. I would probably be 90% right, but I might be out of order. But I bet I could get close to naming every band that played here.
Damn, it's impressive. Well, I appreciate, Griffin, you taking some time to chat with me here this evening. Congrats on all of the cool work that you and everybody at the Pink Place has done. Obviously, it's not just you. There's a whole crew behind making that happen. I hope the next 3 shows, go off without a hitch. We really want you guys to succeed. If any final thoughts here on this evening or on the place or, Pink Place or on the venue that you want to make sure we get across?
I guess just, thank you to all the people that make this happen. Thank you to you for pointing a local spotlight on us. And yeah, we hope this isn't an absolute goodbye from the Pink Place.
Awesome. Well, Griffin, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me.
Yeah, thank you.
You have been listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share so you can stand out against the sea of other music podcasts. You can find information and other important links in the show notes of this episode. If you would like to support us, please consider subscribing on Patreon for early access to live sessions and other bonus content. You can also subscribe to our Substack for a regular newsletter with reviews, ramblings, and anything else we have to say. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.